This is Talk Business and Politics with Roby Brock.
Welcome to today's Talk Business and Politics Daily. I'm Roby Brock, joined by John Brummett of the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette, political columnist extraordinaire. Good to see you.
Well, excellent. This is going to be a good Monday.
We got you
so
off
far.
to a good start
so
there.
Far,
so
yeah.
You've been stirring the pot up. We were just talking before we got on camera about all the comments that you get through Facebook and letters to the editor.
And on these posts.
And on these posts.
And most of them aren't printable or worthwhile, but we enjoy them anyway.
You're just happy to be stirring stuff up.
I'm happy to be noticed. That's helpful to a newspaper columnist.
All right. Yeah. Let's begin with a Supreme Court decision last week. The Arkansas Supreme Court ruled that Judge Griffin's decision on medical marijuana licenses was inaccurate and decided to let the process go forward with the 5 that have been selected. So what happens next?
Well, that's the question. I mean, as soon as the case is formally completed, in now less than 2 weeks, the state DF&A director, our PR person, Scott Harden, says they'll restart the process, but there are a couple of options. They could. That's what I'd like to see them do, which means they won't. But they could scrub what they've done and go with the ABC permit style, which is rather than ranking them in order and having a lot of questionable human judgment into it, all of those applications which were acceptable go into a hopper and you draw. The governor actually said he hoped they would do that back when this whole conflict of interest and unfair grading system issue arose. They could do that, or they can start anew. And as you may be able to help me on this because I have not spoken with a lawyer, but as I read the Supreme Court ruling, they basically said Griffin ruled before it was ripe, and the people who did not get permits had not received their denial letters, and therefore could not use the rule which allows them to appeal to the circuit court when they're formally denied. Which, unless I'm mistaken, that means go back, start over, and you guys can bring suit again, and we can be right back where we were, and we're going to possibly.
True. Yes. Or they could issue the 5 licenses, and then things get litigated, which is what I suspect is what will happen.
You think they're just going to say, okay, we've got the go ahead, we're free and clear in the court right now. Here we go, and let litigation ensue, not preemptively, but while the process is going forward. That's how a lot of your litigation works, isn't it? I mean, things are in process, and you're fighting it after the fact. You're probably right, but I do wish they would consider a more random system.
So this is where it gets into some political calculation here, is because of the process that we've talked about and how convoluted it is and how confusing it will be, and the fact that either way there's going to be more litigation in this thing. By 2019, which is only a half a year away, the legislature meets again. It will have been 3 years since the people passed this medical marijuana amendment, and it's still not implemented. What happens in the General Assembly when you've gone 3 years without basically satisfying with the will of the people?
What do you mean what happens in the General Assembly? What happens with legislators,
or
is there political fallout?
Yeah. I mean, could they take over the process, I guess is my point.
The legislators?
Do something different than what they constructed.
They could. I mean, if the system is still entirely fluid, entirely litigated, and not actually begun, then the legislature could and the governor and others could design a different way of getting it done, I suppose, within the restrictions of the amendment. That's possible. I thought you meant the political fallout from the fact that this is yet another example of how government is not responsive. I mean,
we got plenty of those examples.
But I mean,
I think they've tried to be responsive. The wheels have come off the wagon, basically, in terms of the process.
Okay, college tried. They tried, but they didn't. The point is, people voted for people. I know marijuana is a controversial thing, and it's a different kind of issue, but in Arkansas there are legitimately people in pain, and this was a constitutional amendment voted by a large majority of the people, I think, to permit them this option to all these opioids out there, to medicinal marijuana. And in 3 years, a legislature, a state government can't deliver what they voted for. I don't think that's going to change anybody's political standing. I don't think that's a political movement, but it furthers the cynicism about the ineffectiveness of our government, regrettably. But yeah, it's possible that if something is not done by the time the next legislature meets, here's a rule of thumb. Anytime the legislature meets and something can be done, they're apt to do it, you know.
Or at least try.
It's an extraordinary thing. Every other January, these guys wander down to Little Rock, and they can make laws. So yeah, it could happen.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Let's move on to the family separation, relocation debate. This has been raging at the national level, and it has found its way into Arkansas. The fact that we have heard that the Little Rock Air Force Base and a potential tent city in southeast Arkansas near Kelso, near the Rohr Japanese internment camp, are at least on the initial watch list of places where we might see some of these illegal immigrant families or separated families. Right. The congressional delegation in Arkansas initially supporting the Trump decision about the family separation policy, but then when it became Arkansas's backyard, perhaps a different take.
Well, I differ with you a little bit there. The Arkansas delegation is going to be with the unbenevolent despot called Donald Trump, whatever he does. I mean, this is a Trump state. We're all in for Trumpism, and all our Republican office holders know it. So yeah, if Trump says let's separate family and let's take refugees, essentially asylum seekers, and let's, as soon as they step in here, let's make them suspected criminals and arrest them and take their children away, that's fine with them. And none of them, to my knowledge, changed that position substantially until Trump, did it himself with his order, whether Melania made him do it or Ivanka or whoever. And now, then all of a sudden, well, guess what? Just like the Cubans in Fort Chaffee, here we come. They're going to put Little Rock Air Force Base might be a good place to put these folks, and then we got the, unbelievably, Japanese internment camp. We might put them over there to deal with the water moccasins on rainy days. You know, that kind of thing. And Hutchinson. I'm not specific.
On the record is saying it's a bad idea. Representative Rick Crawford tweeting out that who thinks this is a good idea.
Crawford from the beginning, at least the East Arkansas thing, because that's a bad idea. But the air base, less clear. Hutchinson's position has been, well, I do not, and I believe others share this vision, is I do not want, we do not support using any facility in Arkansas to house children separated from their families. Well, there are a whole lot of these kids, a sizable number of kids, minors, who were unaccompanied or who were brought by some adult and were trying to vet to see who that was. If the administration chooses to put a bunch of minors, a bunch of children at the Little Rock Air Force Base, they can always say, well, we're looking for their parents, or they arrived without parents and we don't know what else to do. And there's not a thing in the world Asa Hutchinson or Tom Cotton or French Hill can do about it or would do about it if they could, because we're here for Trump to dump. That's what we're here for.
Well, it's a federal facility too, so the federal government can...
Yeah, but you can raise a lot of heck. I mean, sure. You know, in 1980, let me just... I'm old enough, I was covering this stuff.
Hey, I was in junior high school then.
Well, congratulations for your youth. I'm so happy for you, Robert, that you... Jimmy Carter, a Democratic president, ordered the Cuban refugees to Fort Chaffee, and Frank White defeated Bill Clinton after one term, largely on the basis of Cubans and car tags. There's nothing Clinton could do about it except influence his party's president. This was what was implied. I mean, it's your president, he's your party, you were his Arkansas campaign chairman, can't you keep him from doing that? You could make the same political argument with Hutchinson, Cotton, Hill, Crawford regarding their president. But they're not going to challenge this administration in any way. There's just, let's just put that out of our minds.
Speaking of this administration, this past weekend, a big national story, Sarah Huckabee Sanders, the press secretary, was asked to leave a restaurant called the Red Hen because the employees did not want her there, and this blew up when she made an issue of this on Twitter, and lots of people have found out the backstory on all of this. First of all, you ever been kicked out of a restaurant before?
No, but I expect to now in this new environment. I'm worried that because of the precedent set by this event, if I want to go out to eat, I'm going to either have to go to Trios or California. And I tell you, that's too far to go for dinner.
There's some places in Hillcrest that would gladly have you for dinner, I think. So.
Let's hope so.
Is this a big story to you?
Yes.
Or is this a mountain out of a molehill?
I think it's a mountain that's a legitimate mountain. I really do. I've written about it tomorrow, and I've taken it very seriously, and in fact, I'm lamenting and decrying that this happened. I don't know how, two things. One, how can America be a beacon of freedom unto the world, which we once were. Not so much now, because we're throwing you in jail just for seeking asylum here. But, and now, because of your political views, albeit political views greatly resented, we're not going to serve you. We're not going to extend our commercial services to you that you're willing to pay for. This is, and then the other point, this is a new level of culture war. We've been having a culture war that's been percolating for years. Culture war meaning completely differing sets of values that guide the way we live. Trump has caused it to blow up. There are people out there of my left of center persuasion who are far more vitriolic and visceral about it than I am. They believe that this guy is such an atrocity that you cannot accept him as legitimate. You cannot, even for an hour, accede to the legitimacy or the decency or the propriety of his presidency. You've got to, at every turn. And they believe that Sarah Huckabee, whom I've known for years, and I simply cannot think that she's Satan, but there are people who say that to go out every day and they say lie for this man is an abomination. Mm-hmm. And it's a level of disdain that's far beyond anything we've seen, and it's happening on both sides. Obviously,
would you say it's not a one-sided thing?
No. I'm just explaining the liberal view,
right,
which used to be called the tolerant view, which isn't now. But when I make the kinds of statement I'm making, which is serve the woman, no matter her politics, they're saying, well, you're an appeaser. I mean, this is not just because of her politics. This is because of a clear and present danger of the man she's serving. That's where we are. And so I saw somebody say the other day, well, the problem, what happens now if this becomes a thing? Mm-hmm. If it becomes, which it could, that do you get served if your politics are known in a place that can't stand the sight of you? I will have a hard time. Seriously. I will have getting any catfish or dry rub pork ribs, because that's culture right food, I think, generally. Okay. I'm just going to be in big trouble. That's levity, but it's a very serious escalation in our culture war and a very dire circumstance for the American ideal.
Yep.
I mean, we got to be able to sit down and
break bread together.
Break bread and yeah, we've got to without this kind of, and the shouting at the Homeland Security thing in the restaurant, you know, free speech, free protest, okay. I mean, I'm not telling anybody not to get out in the street and protest. I mean, that's important. I'm not telling anybody to change their view of Trump. But I do wish that those folks wouldn't have stood inside the restaurant a few tables away and shouted. It seems to me, I know it's a horrible policy. I know that the demonstrators feel strongly. But you could have been more effective outside on the sidewalk, to me. Than in making that kind of spectacle, which I think invites kind of a backlash against the points you're trying to make. But we're in a situation in this country, largely because of Trump and his style, that has brought all this to the
new age of incivility, we'll call it.
Well, that's one way to synopsize it. Thanks.
Last question for you. Don Zimmerman, longtime leader of the Arkansas Municipal League, passed away late on Sunday night. Been around the Capitol forever. I mean, he'd been with the organization.
I didn't know that till just now.
Over 50 years there. What do you think his impact, his legacy will be on what he has helped the Arkansas Municipal League create? The cities are a powerful force up at the state capitol.
Arkansas has no system, I'm just winging this because I didn't know this until you said that. Arkansas has no system of home rule. Unless the legislature specifically delegates authority for something to cities, the cities can't do it. So that would mean that municipalities in Arkansas have scant political power inherently in the Constitution and in our system. But for all the 30 years I've been going out to the legislature, when cities want something done, cities of all sizes, from Little Rock to the smallest, through this Municipal League Association, were a powerful political force. And it was always Zimmerman at the helm. And he was not a good old boy type, not overtly. He was not a wheeler dealer. There was sort of just a quiet competence to him. He knew how to mobilize all the forces. You put all these municipal office holders together and get them from the ground up exerting political influence, you've got something. And heck of a guy, and very sorry to hear that.
Yeah. All right, we will end it on that sad note there, but we will be back next week with more to talk about, no doubt. John,
I bet something happens this week, don't you?
I guarantee that it will. All right. John Brummett with the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette. You can catch his columns 3 days a week, and you can catch him online a 4th day a week, and you can find him online with us 24/7.
Always there.
And you can comment if you want to. Thank you so much.
You bet.
That's all for today's Talk Business and Politics Daily. I'm Roby Brock. We'll see you next time.
Arkansas Electric Cooperative Corporation provides electric energy across 2/3 of Arkansas. This is an exciting time in our energy history, with incredible progress being made in renewable energy and storage technologies. As our energy portfolio continues to diversify, we'll maintain an all-the-above strategy to provide reliable and affordable electricity. Ever since the first light bulbs were placed in our members' homes, the electric cooperatives have been the solutions provider for our members, and we want to continue that well into the future.
Each day, the promise of our nation begins again. Arkansas and America, moving forward. I help make that promise a reality. It's not for everyone, but people everywhere depend on us.
Oh, I love you too, sweetie.
Trucking delivers, or everything stops. And that's what drives me.